Just a work session. We'll go into the meeting in just a minute. This is just a work session. The meeting starts at 6:30. Yeah, they hadn't voted yet. They'll vote in the meeting. Yeah, I would stay. I would stay.
The work session is now over, and we're going to move into the regular meeting for Monday, March 11, 2023. The general meeting call to order.
Gant.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Diamond. Vaughn. Lindsay. Smith. Here. Nelson. Tompkins.
Here.
McMillan.
Here.
Father, we thank you for everything you give us, and we thank you for this day. And Father, we ask that you bless each person that's here and bless this commission. And Father, we thank you for allowing us to live in this community. You've blessed us beyond measure, and we are just thankful to live in this community, in this state, in this country. And Father, I ask that you give the Planning Commission the wisdom to make the decisions that are right for this community. And we also thank you for those people that protect the freedoms that we exercise and honestly take for advantage every day. And we just thank you for protecting us and protecting them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any committee announcements?
I guess there's a few things to report from last few meetings of the City Council. There was an ordinance passed to rezone the property at 7080 Highway 31 next to the church over here from R1 to B2. We appointed a new supernumerary member for the Board of Adjustments. And let's see, the last one, Mr. Mayor, you might help out with this one. We approved an act to be, we approved of an act to be enacted by the state legislature allowing us to use some money collected by the CID at the Eastern Shore Center to purchase some land, I believe.
Basically, we're asking the legislators to allow us to expand the Cooperative Improvement District at the Eastern Shore Center. It was our resolution from the council was in support of that. And I don't know any better way than simplistically say that we just want to expand the center to move that center a little forward with maybe some acquisition of some property and some things like that. So.
Approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, are there any corrections? No correction, then the minute stands approved as written. Old business, agenda item 240101, an application for minor subdivision plat. Casey?
Mr. Chairman, this is an application for minor subdivision plat for Anchor Trace subdivision. As far as I know, the applicants are still reviewing their options for this. They did request to postpone this to the next meeting. I don't know if they've necessarily decided on the direction they want to go. If you'll remember, they submitted this originally as a minor subdivision plat. Based on the layout they submitted, they would potentially have to do a preliminary and final subdivision plat to accommodate public improvements and utilities. So at this time, they're requesting it be postponed to the next meeting.
David, do we need to open a public hearing for that?
We haven't sent out notices or posted anything for public hearing.
Okay.
Next agenda item is 240201, application for zoning change. We'll have a public hearing on this one. Casey?
Mr. Chairman, this applicant's proposing to rezone the approximately 0.5 acre parcel along Battleship Parkway across US 9098 from Traders from the current zoning of R1 low-density single-family residential. The proposed use for the application has been given as any legal B3 application, and the requested zoning is B3 general business. The existing conditions within the vicinity of the subject property are typically local to general business type uses along the causeway. Due to the existing uses in the surrounding area, the application is expected to have little to no impact on the area. The subject property is identified on the comprehensive plan's future land use map as marshland and state land. And based on discussion we've had with the Planning Commission, I feel that the Planning Commission's preference is to recommend rezoning of B2 for this parcel.
Any discussion?
I think we discussed it.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest before we have discussion, we ought to do the public hearing, and then go to discussion, if that's okay. I think you should open the public hearing, and then hear comments, and then go to discussion, if that's okay.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. If you would like to have an input, you can approach the podium, but sign in with Carol over there before you do. Public hearing is now open.
Yeah.
I think Mr. McAleer stands on his comments from the work session.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I think we basically discussed it nauseam, so I'm gonna, if you're ready to entertain a motion.
You need to close the public hearing, then we can.
Public hearing is not closed. Now discussion. Kevin?
Yeah, I think we can make a motion if the commission agrees for a positive recommendation to rezone the 24201 from an R1 to a B2. That's what I'm gonna recommend positive to the city council.
Additional discussion? May we get a motion?
Gant,
Yes.
Davis, Diamond, Vaughn,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tompkins,
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, for the record, this will be a positive recommendation to rezone the property to B2, which will be made to the city council, and then the city council will hold a public hearing and make the ultimate determination about which classification.
So- Agenda item 240203, application for site plan. Casey?
Mr. Chairman, this is an application for a material stockpile storage yard, described as Pate Storage Stockyard. It's located at 39449 AL 59, Bay Minette, Alabama. Following the last few meetings we've had on this, there's still a few items that do need to be addressed on this as far as engineering is concerned. There's also some clarification that's still needed with the Highlands master plan approval as far as who's responsible for development review committee. I'm still trying to identify who that would be necessarily. I think the attorneys are currently working on that. So at this time, we don't have enough information to recommend approval of this. So staff's recommendation is to postpone this to the next meeting.
Any discussion, comments?
David, any comment?
I've contacted Bill Schrader with Rock Creek Capital, as well as the lawyers representing the local applicant. They provided the name of an attorney that has information. I've reached out to them, haven't heard back at the moment, so I'll keep doing that. But they know that information as well, and they also have some items that even if we had approval, they've got to correct before you could approve it. So it should be postponed.
We don't need a motion to postpone, do we?
Next agenda item is new business. Agenda item 240301, an application for site plan. Casey.
Mr. Chairman, this is the application for site plan for new dog park located on Huckleberry Lane. It's located at 7295 Huckleberry Lane. We did receive a request to postpone the action on this item to the next regular meeting. We have had meetings with the project or engineer of record on the project. They're working on some revisions based on staff comments and comments from the city. So they should be getting something to us fairly soon. But at this time, as I said, they've recommended to postpone it to the next meeting. Or requested to postpone it, sorry.
Okay. Any discussion on this item?
I would like to see staff, before this comes before this commission, that we do post maybe a public hearing for the residents on that street to make them fully aware of what's coming at them. Casey?
Sort of following the standard public hearing notice requirements?
I would think so, unless that delays. Is that going to delay anything?
No, we can do that in plenty of time before the
I
next
think
meeting.
it's proper for those residents to know what's coming across the street from them.
Let's just hope they're all dog people.
There'll be cats there, too.
If they have a bunch of cat folks over there, they might not appreciate that, but I think it'd be proper too. It's a good.
Okay, the next agenda item is 240302, an application for site plan. Casey.
Mr. Chairman, this is a site plan application for a new mini golf and go-kart track located at 10464 Eastern Shore Boulevard. If you remember from our last meeting, there were a few items still left outstanding for the engineer to address. We did receive revisions on Friday for the site plan. They've also submitted additional revisions last night. As you'll notice, Matthew's not here. He's out sick today, so I don't believe he's actually had a chance to look at the latest revisions. We did have a couple of outstanding comments, nothing major on this. It had to do with downstream pipe calculations and landscaping mostly. I believe everything else has been satisfied, but there is still the question of parking. They did go back and revise the parking schedule on the updated site plan to accommodate the draft proposal for parking regulations for this use, but that as you'll see later on the agenda, is on the Planning Commission's agenda tonight and hasn't been adopted by the council yet. So I'm going to defer to council's guidance on that part of it.
I see all you mentioned. Are we ready to approve the site plan as is or not yet? Or?
Well, the problem is that they, according to Casey, there's a few items that they've changed that Matthew, they just came in yesterday or the day before yesterday, so Matthew hadn't had a chance to review them. And the other part is that it relies upon a parking count that has not yet been approved by the city council. For example, y'all are having a public hearing tonight on those amendments. And so probably what we ought to do is give Matthew time to make those comments and review it and just hold this to hopefully the next meeting where we can hopefully have these amendments done so it works. It's hard to approve a plan if you don't know what it is. We really like to try and help them get started because they need to get started. And we have in the past, when projects, for example, were close to completion and they weren't quite there was some issue, we have given conditional or temporary COs, for example, to occupy, but I'm having a hard time thinking of a method or a way to give them the opportunity to start on a site plan that's not been approved or completed with parking requirements that hadn't been approved or completed. They have plenty of land to fix it if it was a problem, but not everybody else would, and it kind of creates a precedent a little bit as well. Now, they could conceivably start with land clearing, because they can get a land disturbance permit for that. Their issue is they have someone that has to review and approve before they can get in the construction mix. And if we can figure out some way to help them on that, we could, but I don't know how to do that at the moment. So it seems like the best thing to do would be to postpone the site plan, get the parking requirements in place, and then go from there. Unless y'all got a different idea, maybe.
Yeah, I recognize the dilemma, because the council has to approve something before Casey can do anything on the site plan. But let me ask, because I do want to be good stewards and good partners in this thing. We have a work session scheduled upcoming. Could we have a-
25th.
Pardon?
The 25th of this month.
Could we have a special, well, when's it come before the council? Next week?
It'll be introduced next week and potentially approved first week of April.
So that my brilliant plan won't work. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because it wouldn't be voted on by the council until first week of April. It means it cannot be addressed by Casey and staff until after that. I was trying.
The only thing that you could, which is not a good thing, would be a conditional.
We do not do
No,
conditional
yeah,
approvals.
And the only other thing that you could do would be to, is it 5 weeks in March? The only other thing you could do to potentially speed things up would be to call a special city council meeting.
But it won't be addressed until the April meeting at the city council level. Because it's being introduced this coming Monday, a week from today.
Yeah. Let me talk about the idea with you after the meeting, see if there's a way to speed it up. But I can't think of anything that.
I'm trying to make it work, but I'm not sure how we can make it work.
What about this? At the city council meeting, I don't guess it would be appropriate to take a vote on that soon. This is strictly to address the parking
You know,
allowances. I mean, we don't have that many mini golf situations, so.
I have potentially have a way to speed up the city council process
through suspending the rules?
by a little bit, no. What don't we talk about after the meeting? I don't think it affects this board tonight.
Yeah, this board can't take action on this.
The only thing we could do is if we were able to speed up the city council process, call a special meeting of the planning commission based on timing to consider the site plan only. But we'll talk about it after the meeting, see if there's a way to speed it up. If we can figure out a way to do it, we want to try and help, so.
Now,
well,
Mr.
we
Chairman, I
wanted-
would like to make sure that we have all the elements there.
Yeah.
Because he was saying a couple of things have not been addressed.
That's right. We've got to let the engineer review what they've got, and if there's a way to figure out timing-wise that we can speed things up, we certainly can. We'll try.
Could that include suspending the rules at council level at the next meeting, pending everyone on the council signing off on that?
Is it possible way maybe?
That's why you love attorneys.
The suspension part is, yes, you can always suspend the rules, but I had to post for 15 days for the public hearing that has to be held. And so normally what we do is require reporting to the city council, and then we have 15 days notice for the next meeting. There may be some ways to address that timing a little bit. I just got to think about it.
What public hearing is required for this?
Planning Commission has to have a public hearing on the amendment to the zoning ordinance to change parking.
Y'all make this so damn difficult. Sorry, David, I appreciate you keeping us out of jail.
Yeah, that's state code. I didn't have anything to do with that.
The only other note I had on my sheet, I'm gonna get Casey's attention here, he says, landscaping plan, Casey, we hadn't seen that yet.
I'm sorry, we were having a separate conversation.
Landscaping plan, y'all are still waiting on that.
We have received a landscaping plan. I think more of the issue with that was some clarification on tree planting types and location. We did have some concerns as far as the landscaping goes because some of the parking area is included in a Alabama Power easement on the east side there. They pretty much do not allow anything vertical in their easements, so we wanted some clarification on that and what that was going to be. I think mainly I think it had to do with clarification on the landscape plan.
Yeah, I had a note about that row of shrubs.
Is that the easement you speaking of?
Yes, the dotted line there is the edge of the easement, right there. And then so that whole area is an Alabama Power easement.
That section from here to here.
I had a note about a row of shrubs just blocking the headlights from the cars on the track, and I didn't know if that was gonna be a huge issue, but it was just kind of a suggestion. I don't know if that was ever implemented, but I just had a thought that could create a blind spot for the drivers going around the track. Somebody pulls straight in with headlights. Trying to get them to do that to tennis courts, put a row of shrubs down there because it blinds folks. I have mentioned it, and I will mention it again. But that could be, cars pulling in, people sit on their cell phones, sit there talking, the headlights are right on onto the track.
I know they talked about doing a planning right there to keep that from happening.
Yeah. So I don't know if that shows up on the landscaping plan, but that was a suggestion. Other than that, we can't move forward based on parking and a couple other things. So staff's recommendation is,
Yeah, I think recommendation at this point would be to postpone it to the next meeting, whenever that may be, if we're able to figure out a faster, alternate to the regular meeting, but if not, the next regular meeting.
I wish we had a way to help you, but our hands are pretty tied.
The next agenda item is 24303, application for planned unit development. We'll have a public hearing on this one also. Casey?
Mr. Chairman, if you'll remember from the work session, this is the application for planned unit development for Kirby Development, I think was the name of it, or Kirby PUD. There were a significant number of comments from the Planning Commission at the work session. We've also since had meetings with the developer and AlDOT and their engineers to look at some traffic improvements that are going to be needed with this development as well. So they're going back right now and actually redoing the traffic impact analysis to look at an alternate route from what was previously proposed that would satisfy the city and AlDOT. I think the city and AlDOT both were on board at that meeting, assuming that the traffic counts and analysis comes back for what they were proposing to do, but they are sort of going back to the drawing board on this one a little bit. I'm waiting on that traffic study to be completed and potentially redoing some of the layout of the lots and addressing some of the concerns of the Planning Commission. So at this time, they've requested to postpone action on this one to the next meeting.
Any discussion on this one?
Do we need to still have the public hearing, David?
We haven't sent out notices or posted for this. They let us know ahead of time, so we were able to postpone that.
Next item is agenda item 240304, application for site plan. Casey.
Mr. Chairman, this was the site plan application for Techline MFG Building Addition. Since the work session and since the discovery of the additional improvements that have been made on site and some of the potential hurdles that I guess have been maybe created by some of what they were planning on do, I haven't talked to the owner myself, but I do know that Eric, our building inspector, has had conversation with them. From what I've been told, they're planning to basically just scrap this site plan. They are going to have to address the improvements that have been made on site. So the site plan for now should remain on the planning, on the agenda, because they'll have to come back with a revision and how they're going to address the improvements that have already been made on site. But at this time, they've got some more work to do. So the staff's recommendation on this would be to postpone it to the next meeting.
We got it going now.
Call us PPs.
Any discussion? If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item, 240305, regulation review. We have a public hearing on this one. Casey?
Mr. Chairman, Casey's asked me to lead this one, if that's okay. This is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance to establish parking requirements for mini golf courses and go-kart track. This is related to the issue that we talked about earlier regarding the site plan. This would be an amendment to add section 7.6H, which would, for mini golf courses, would provide one space for each hole, plus 4 spaces per 18 holes, plus 1 space per 2 employees. That is the same requirements that the City of Gulf Shores employs for their mini golf courses. And so we felt like if that's worked for them, that'd probably work for us. And then go-kart and go-kart tracks, you find very limited provisions that relate to that. But based on what we thought about and the number of users and car traffic, we felt comfortable that the same requirement for golf courses would likely apply to go-karts. Again, that would be 1 space for each go-kart, plus 4 spaces for each 18 go-karts and 1 space for each 2 employees. We had talked to the design professional for Eastern Shore Lanes who is submitting this, and because, again, we were establishing and we wanted to know what the design professionals thought, and they thought those parking requirements were fair and would work. And so that's what we're proposing. This is a public hearing for you all tonight to make a recommendation to the City Council regarding this proposed amendment.
Okay, public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Discussion.
I said, you want to go ahead and add a full-size golf course in here? HIJ, you got, under section 1, you got every other golf covered right there.
That's a good question. We were addressing the issue before us. I had to go back and look and see what regular golf courses require. We may need to go back and add something like that, but that would require notice again in publication. So we just need to stay with this recommendation now.
How about we get a golf course in our city first before we worry about that?
Yeah.
We always react on we always work it backwards anyhow, right?
Yeah.
Don't get out in front, don't get out in front of it.
Yeah, no. Stay behind the curve.
Well, we could also look at NASCAR. Just
Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we forward to the City Council a positive recommendation to adopt Agenda Item 240305.
second.
Roll call.
Just for the record, before we do that, just for the record, close the public hearing. Yeah.
They did.
Okay.
Thought he did.
Okay. Gant,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Diamond,
Yes.
Vaughn. Yes. Smith,
Yes.
Tompkins,
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
It's now time for the public participation. If you'd like to say anything, you're welcome. Announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission will be held Monday, April 8, 2024. A work session will begin at 6 p.m. in the multipurpose room of the Spanish Fork Community Center, followed by the regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. The next informal work session of the Planning Commission will be held Monday, March 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The submission deadline for the April 2024 regular meeting agenda is Tuesday, March 12, 2024 at 12 noon. If nothing else, this meeting stands adjourned.